Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Daincast of a game of Littlewargame here between Aicy, the team captain of performance enhancing Frogs, and one player who is extremely strong but not actually playing on any pro league team. He's kind of running the pro league. He is kind of a legend. He is Sqrtofneg1. And we are playing here on what is this map called? Cursed Temple. Not a map that I've played a whole lot of. This is this map that has this sort of funky path in between the two players' bases here, and it allows for some relatively quick rushes. You also have a relatively close by air positions, but as the game goes on, you expand away from your opponent. So kind of if you can maybe wall this off and just survive here, use air control to put on a little pressure, could make for an interesting macro game. We'll have to see what these players go for. Last time I saw a game on this, it was basically just catapult drops and mass dragons and things like that, trying to abuse the airspace. I don't think this is really the best plan to rush across the low ground here. This does allow you to scout relatively quickly, which Aicy is doing, which is quite interesting because I know that Aicy generally favors not worker scouting. He doesn't feel that it's necessary, but could be that on this kind of map with this close of rush distances where you can just get to your opponent's base very, very quickly and then get back, it's not really going to hurt you too much to send this scout out. It's not going to be as big of a deal as it would be on some of the larger maps. And it is going to mean that Aicy is going to be able to see the workshop coming down for Sqrtofneg1. Is going to know that he's going to be playing a mech opener and he's playing a Rax opener, so he could potentially go for some raider pressure to try and eke out a little bit of damage early on. He's definitely going to have the map control early on, but then he's going to have to deal with whatever this phase 2 of the mech army is, whether it's the gyrocopters, which make a lot of sense on this map given that you've got that air distance, or you could go for the catapult drops, which again makes a lot of sense. The dragons are kind of hard to do really early, so it makes sense to go for a workshop opener. That by all means, Aicy could go for a mech build himself. He could go for any of those things himself after going for this barracks, but it just means that his will be a little bit slower. So we'll see what kind of utility he can get out of his barracks, right? So he hasn't made a raider yet. He's opted to just go for the faster expansion instead, thinking that he knows Sqrtofneg is pretty solid. He knows Sqrtofneg is going to be making sure he's got his I's dotted and his T's crossed. So he's probably not going to take a lot of damage from raider pressure, so there's no point in investing a whole bunch of money into those early on. He is going to make a single raider here after the expansion, so this is a late raider. Which is just going to probably be for scouting, just to go in. He could potentially go around and blink behind and try and get in. There's also the ability to blink out once you're in the main base, so it's pretty safe. It's unlikely that you're going to run into a caltrop or get cornered or anything like that. So he's going to be able to walk this raider all the way in and get a full scout if he chooses to, which is going to mean that whatever Sqrtofneg decides to do, he will have a potential answer for it. And it is going to be an advanced workshop, so it's going to be the catapult drops coming down for Sqrtofneg1. And it remains to be seen whether or not Aicy will be able to spot this. Now, Sqrtofneg will also know what's going on here, right? So he could potentially zone out this raider, which is exactly what he's going to do, and it's going to mean that Aicy is just going to blink away and not try to force the issue. So this is going to be nice for Sqrtofneg. He knows that this raider's coming, he preempts it, and he's going to stop him from getting anywhere near scouting that. So even though there is this short rush distance, it's also a very narrow choke, which means that mech units can just sort of stand there and block the path of any scouting. Aicy realizing that there's 2 Gats here. It's nothing too aggressive early on. He doesn't really fear 2 Gatling guns in the early game. So yes, there might be a drop coming out. He's probably just inferring that a drop is coming out, to be honest. If you know it's mech, you know it's going to be something like that. It's probably not just going to be a really fast push. So he's just going to take the base of his own. And I would expect that he gets an advanced workshop of his own, as he's not really going to have anything that shoots up just yet. And you're going to want to have something to shut down this airship. So the airship already coming down from Sqrtofneg. He's got 1 catapult to go in it. A second catapult is going to be out by the time this is ready. Aicy just keeping his raider out front, just in case for whatever reason there was some kind of a push. I like this caltrop here from Sqrtofneg dropping it right there, knowing that Aicy could potentially just blink right on across that corner there. And that would mean that he gets stuck by it. But Aicy is, in fact, going to go right in the front there, and it's going to burn one of his, actually 2 of his blinks on the first raider there. Doesn't lose either of them, and he is keeping them sort of in a good position here to spot any kind of move out, but he's probably not going to see this airship moving out. He does have an advanced workshop of his own coming down, but as you can see, it's only about 3/4 finished, while the airship is already on its way, and this close by air position is so dangerous, it's potentially going to stop this advanced workshop from even getting down in the first place if he kills the worker that's building this. There's no tower from Aicy. There's 1 archer coming out from his barracks, and this shows you just how dangerous those catapult drops can be. They come out so quickly, and Aicy's going to have to pull workers in order to deal with this, but with good micro on the catapults, he could potentially not take any damage on these, right? So it's going to be up to this 1 archer to zone this out, and it looks like Sqrtofneg1 is actually a little bit afraid of this. A little bit of damage going down on a couple of these workers, but this archer going down and these catapults being repaired. Aicy trying to get this advanced workshop up, but it's just not happening. The worker from Sqrtofneg1 does go in and just bop him dead. The raiders coming in frantically trying to get this advanced workshop up, going to try and zone this out, but as we can see, there is just so many units for Sqrtofneg1, and it's just these raiders which just don't shoot up. They don't do what they need to do. Yes, they can attack the catapults when they land, but with this airship and with decent micro, they just don't really do a whole lot. There isn't really a worker lead just yet for Sqrtofneg1, and there is this faster expansion from Aicy, so he's going to have the money. He's going to get that ballista coming down, so it's not the end of the world from him. He's definitely faring better against this than we've seen in other games, but he is going to lose a lot of mining time here, and another archer coming out. He already has lost an archer, and I think at least 1 worker, if not 2. So the drop has been relatively successful at this point, but it's definitely not ideal for him if he doesn't get this drop, and he might even lose one of these raiders. He does manage to keep this one alive, just dodging those catapult shots, but with the repair on this, he hasn't even really taken a whole lot of damage just yet, and he's got to close the distance on these. Finally, one of these catapults looks like it might go down, but in fact, nice micro there from Sqrtofneg1 does manage to pick that up. Let's see what his follow-up is. As we see, he's done some really good harass, and it's tempting to just stare at this all day long, but ultimately what we really are interested in is what is the next step going to be from Sqrtofneg1, and it appears to be just a 2-base pressure, right? So he's not taken a 3rd base yet. He realizes that he's doing a lot of damage with this cata drop. He's probably in a decent position to do a 2-base push, especially against someone who's opened up with Raxes. There's only 2 Raxes out for Aicy and an advanced workshop, so he's not going to have an overwhelming amount of units. He actually has 3 plus a 4th coming up, so he's going to stick to Rax in this one. He's not going to be going for a mech of his own. He's not going to be going for dragons, anything like that. He's going to be going for good old-fashioned ground units, and he's not really making a whole lot of diversity of units. He's made a couple archers, he's made a ballista, and maybe an airship. He might make an airship at some point. He does have he does have an airship with a ballista in it to zone this out, but now a 2nd airship coming in from Sqrtofneg1, and this is just going to start stressing the multitasking of Aicy. Now it's extremely difficult to do anything about this, and you have to think 1 tower would have helped so much here. I mean, I don't know how much it would have helped, but it seems like it would have helped a lot. Given that he's got the money to burn, he just needs a little bit of breathing room. He just needs to be able to zone this out for a little while longer. He's going to start losing some workers to this. He is pulling workers, but it's just so irritating to micro against this when you don't have anything that can chase it. So in the next patch, this will be a little bit nicer for Rax players, because you'll be able to open up with a church and maybe even zone these out with angels. But for the moment, it's all going to be about these cata drops, and there's not really much to do to stop them. Now, Aicy is still mining off of 3 bases, so even though he might not have too many more workers, in fact, Sqrtofneg1 has 2 more workers than Aicy does, he's mining off of 3 bases, which means that his income should be relatively high compared to Sqrtofneg1. Now, he doesn't have enough to make, and he's lost a lot of mining time, so it doesn't seem that big, so Sqrtofneg1 is keeping him very, very honest in this game, but I like this, the double drop. You might even call it a doom drop coming in from Sqrtofneg1. Aicy does have a ballista in position as well as some raiders, so Sqrtofneg1 realizing that I can just abuse the low ground here. I'm just going to start zoning out this forge, taking some damage there. Aicy microing this pretty well, blinks the raiders onto the low ground, but a couple of them miss blink there, meaning that they don't get to close the distance with all of them, but at least one of these catapults is going down. This is going to be such a nice feeling for Aicy when he finally beats this down and gets some breathing room of his own. He's got another airship with another ballista into it, so Aicy's entire army right now is just airships with ballista, and raiders, which is a surprisingly effective army against someone who's going for a mech, especially if you have the numbers advantage. Sqrtofneg1 coming in once again with the catapults, going in this nice spot here. A couple of big shots going down. This is so dangerous for Aicy. If he looks away for just 2 seconds, he loses so many workers. He doesn't realize this is happening. There's action going on elsewhere on the map. So many workers going down, and it just shows you that if you keep trying and you keep trying and you keep trying with something as dangerous as a catapult drop, eventually, as long as you keep them alive, you are going to get that critical damage at some point. And Aicy still has not got this monkey off his back. He's pulling workers to try and deal with this, but every single time these workers get to 4 health, they're so in danger of being wiped out in big clumps because they like to just stack up on those minerals, and these catapults doing that area of effect damage are so dangerous. Still no towers out from Aicy, trying to deal with this with just the catapults, just the ballista and airships and the raiders, but again, so difficult to do so. I think finally he's going to chase this away, but at this point, although he does have the 3 bases, and although he does have most of his raiders alive, his opponent has 8 catapults still, and Sqrtofneg1 has taken a third of his own, and he's got a nice little worker lead there. Going into this mid to late game. It's not really going to be the late game just yet, but there is a huge swell of raiders out on the map for Aicy. He's going to want to try and get a decisive engagement, but again, it's very difficult to do that on this map. Sqrtofneg1 pushing up this very narrow choke point, building towers with this push. How do you engage this as Aicy? You're going to try to get an airship to go around the back. You're going to try and hit him from 2 sides, but ultimately, this is extremely awkward for Aicy to deal with. A couple of catapult shots just missing the mark just then, but nice around there from Aicy. He does manage to find a way to engage this. These towers need to go down as quickly as possible for Aicy. He doesn't want to have to deal with this. Nice cleanup there from Aicy overall. Decisive engagement for him to use the airship to drop that down. Now, the airship with 2 catapults going into the main base of Aicy. The longer this game goes on now, I think the worse it gets for Aicy. He has managed to clean this up, but he just doesn't have the worker count, and in Littlewargame, that much of a worker difference. There's no macro mechanics to bring it back, so it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. He needs to do something to equalize this, right? He needs to either build another base right now and go to and hope that he can hold on to a fast 4th, which I think would work. Given that he's destroyed an army of his opponent, or he needs to do some damage of his own on the other side of the map, which again, he's got the raiders, he has the ability to do that. An airship going down for Sqrtofneg1, that's going to be nice for Aicy to finally get the monkey off his back there. He has quite a few barracks building units here. Gonna stick with the raiders here, but now it's only actually a 3 worker lead. Now it's a maybe 4 or 5 worker lead, actually 4 worker lead finally for Sqrtofneg1. Finally Aicy doing some damage on the other side of the map. But yeah, with this tower coming down, it's going to be very difficult for Aicy to do a whole lot, even with these raiders. The raiders are very low, noticing here. And if this tower were to focus fire these, they potentially could go down quite quickly. And yeah, ultimately, Aicy going to lose 1 or 2 raiders there for basically nothing. He has managed to even out the worker counts overall here. But yeah, with a little bit of macro here from Sqrtofneg1, he will maintain this lead. Going into the mid game, quite a few raiders here from Aicy. They're going to walk on another caltrop here. I don't know. I think these do. They don't do AoE damage, so only 1 raider gets caught by this, which is lucky for Aicy. And there's no catapults to punish that. Now let's see what Aicy's next step is going to be in this game. He's got multiple airships all over the place. He's actually got 3 airships out that we can see, and he's got a big chunk of raiders. Neither player really going for upgrades as far as we can tell. There is 1 forge there from Aicy getting the +1 attack. And actually, I misspeak it. There is +1 attack coming for Sqrtofneg1, so they're not going to go for the double forge in this matchup. It doesn't really help all that much to get the armor. Just going to be going for the attack upgrades to burst down those mech units, to burst down in AoE those raiders. And it's all going to come down to the multitasking and the engagements. I like this from Aicy, just sending a single raider to the top side of the map. He's going to poke in and see what's going on, whether there's a 4th base for Sqrtofneg1. I don't think Sqrtofneg1 is particularly bothered. I like this from Aicy, just doom dropping these raiders into the mineral line of his opponent. And for the first time in this game, Aicy is on the other side of the map doing some damage, finally equalizing things. He's going where he knows there's not going to be any caltrops, and this is really nice from him to just get that counter damage. He's denying all this mining. He's going to be able to, well, he could have potentially surrounded that catapult, but not going to be greedy and go for that. He's just going to even things out. And finally, Aicy is on even workers in this game. He's going to be going to maybe get a 4th of his own at some point. or is he just going to try and macro up here? Looks like he's just going to be a little bit cheeky here and try and chase down this airship to the top of the map. But instead, he's just going to keep these airships alive and go around the map and be annoying with them. So there is a tower here from the square root of -1 at the third base. He may choose to build a tower in his main base just because he's got that weakness of that anti-air. He kind of showed there, Aicy showed that was a dangerous position for him. So you wonder why he doesn't make a ballista or a tower or something like that to try and deal with any future drops that happen. But looks like he's confident in his ability to defend that. He doesn't feel like it's worth putting the money in for a tower. Both of these players' macro is extremely good, right? They're making loads of workers. They've got lots of money. They just spend it very quickly. So it's very tight at this stage of the game when you're making units off of 6 workshops to try and fit in a tower when you feel like it doesn't really do anything if I go on attack. So I understand wanting to be a little bit chintzy on it, but ultimately, if you get another drop coming in, you're going to be kicking yourself when those workers start getting sliced down by those raiders. Now, big move out from square root, moving on to the top side of the map, bringing only 1 worker with this push. He's got a good chunk of Gatling guns and catapults with this, as well as an airship. This is going to be spotted by Aicy, but this could be a really nasty position here on the high ground. Once he gets the catapults in this position, it could be very awkward. Aicy boldly going forward with a ballista here. Looks like he is just going to lose that while only getting 1 shot off. That's just unfortunate for Aicy. He is coming through with a catapult, a few units of his own, trying to get the flank on this, but not really the smoothest engagement from Aicy, I have to say. Don't know where the rest of his units are. If they were lost in an airship somewhere, if he lost those airships, I didn't spot it. This is a little bit awkward for him. He's posturing, and he's got a nice little chunk here of units to catch the reinforcements. The problem is he doesn't have an actual army to back this up to hold the push itself. So he's just going to slowly get shelled from the high ground here from all these catapults and all these Gatling guns are just holding the line against him. So many caltrops, and there's so many sort of tight chokes here on this map that it's very difficult for barracks units to close the gap and actually engage this. These catapults can just run away, bait them into caltrops, and AoE them down if they ever walk too fast. So Aicy does manage to actually push this back. I'm not sure why Square Root is running away from this. There's only 3 catapults. Maybe he's just macroing back home and he can't be bothered with this, or maybe there's a drop that I missed somewhere. Looks like Square Root is going to be looking to push up in this close spawn position here. Now that he's got Aicy's army pulled to this top here, he knows Aicy's got to bring absolutely everything he has to try and crush this army, to try and finish this off. This move of desperation from Aicy to try and clean this up so he can stabilize and go into the late game here is going to be his undoing, because now Square Root coming in to the natural, he's going to be able to start shelling down his reinforcements. There's a relatively small amount of units here, which is nice for barracks units. They could potentially overwhelm that. And I have to say, Square Root may be making a tactical mistake here, and he actually ends up getting cleaned up. So I don't know if it was Aicy's micro here or what was going on, but there was a much bigger army here, it seemed, for Square Root, but somehow Aicy managed to micro his way around this and end it. So Aicy, after looking like he was in a very desperate situation, going into this sort of later stages of the game with a 4th base on the way, stabilizing both the front of his base and the back where he was being attacked on that high ground, and miraculously is looking to be in a decent position in this game. You can see that just from the units on screen there, you've got the same amount of catapults, maybe 1 more catapult for the mech player, which makes sense, but there's 8 soldiers for Aicy, and he's getting that critical mass of barracks units, which is looking really nice. He is a little bit behind. You can see these catadrops are still going through and doing a little bit of damage to his economy, but he is managing to stabilize. He's not as far behind as he could be for sure. So let's see what the plan is for Square Root. He is building a 4th base of his own. He's maintaining and a little bit of a catadrop coming down for Aicy at this point, trying to give Square Root a taste of his own medicine. A nice micro there from both players. Doesn't take too much damage from that. And actually, Aicy is ahead 4 workers now at this stage. So he's going to be feeling a little bit more confident. He wants to take that momentum and start pushing it into a lead. So he wants to keep that economy going, build a few more Raxes, get those upgrades going, and hit him in multiple places at once. You probably don't want to hit, fight mech all in one big ball against your big ball, right? Both players have big balls of army, but we want to make sure that the Rax player is hitting from multiple angles at very least. And actually, nice here, little pick off from Aicy. He could potentially just kill this and run away, but at what cost? These Gatling guns are just going to mow down these units. But you can see that the low kill time, the long time to kill, I should say, does make things relatively safe, even when you overextend in this game. These units walked into a massive army and they still managed to keep their lives because the units are so non-lethal in this game. I think they're shooting paintballs or something like that. Now, what does each player want to accomplish at this stage? I think Sqrtofneg1 probably wants to just chill. Continue to build up on 4 bases. I think a 4-base mech army versus a 4-base Rax army probably is going to favor the meching player. Aicy going for a 5th base, realizing he's probably going to start trading slightly inefficiently against this, so he's going to need to have a little bit more money. Sqrtofneg1 is going to be about as spread out as he's going to be at any point. Aicy getting a nice position on this high ground, going to send his army multiple positions. Has catapults of his own, which evens things out a little bit. But as you can see, when Aicy sends out a small group of units that are trying to flank or do a little bit of counter damage, this small hit squad of Gatling guns actually deals with that quite nicely. They do armor piercing, so they mow down those soldiers. So even though the Rax player should be the one with the more mobile army, the Gatling guns are so nice on these flanking positions. They don't heal and they're not that fast. With the upgrade, they're fast enough that they can hold their own in these engagements. So they sort of fill this role between like what Hellions and Vultures do in StarCraft. They're the anti-ground unit. They're relatively fast. They give you a bit of map control, and they provide cover for the catapults. Big engagement here. I think this is going to overall go in the favor of Sqrtofneg1. We can see the problem with barracks units in these big engagements. If you fight in one big spot, it usually goes the way of the meching player. Aicy has to have a think now. He's going to go home. What do I want to do? If I was Aicy, I think a good thing to consider here would be to start dropping. Dropping was the most successful thing he had done. He does have 2 raiders in the main base of Sqrtofneg1, and it's not going to benefit him too much more to send many more units here. I mean, obviously raiders aren't going to kill this base even after a while. There's no mining here. He could maybe go for the forge, but it's just not going to be that impactful. What Aicy really needs in this game is to either commit to a complete base race by dropping everything in the main and just killing all the bases, which becomes very messy and it's very awkward, or to just go for a big engagement in the middle of the map and wipe out the army of Sqrtofneg1. The latter there, from what I've seen in Littlewargame, is probably the preferable option, but it's still going to be a very difficult thing to pull off, especially with someone as calm, strategic as Sqrtofneg1. He's going to know what Aicy's trying to accomplish here. He's going to be very cautious in the position that he puts his army in. He's going to make sure that he has caltrops and towers, workers to repair, and so on. And he's going to try and surround this army from Aicy. I like this from Aicy. There's not really a lot of anti-air for Sqrtofneg1, so it's possible that Aicy commits to this and then just picks up and goes away. But with all of these gats on this, I think Aicy is gonna end up losing all of this without even killing this base. So a little bit of a misplaced gamble there from Aicy, we have to say. The one soldier just chipping away at this base, but Sqrtofneg1, realizing this is quite dangerous, is just gonna repair this. And build the tower there, rebuild the tower so that he doesn't have to worry about it. And somehow the expert observing that I've been showing you this whole game has faltered here, because I've completely missed Aicy losing half of his workers here. He's down to 17 workers. The wind is now out of his sails, and he's not really getting the trades he needs to get. He does have a decent sized army. He's got those airships still going, but now his economy is leagues worse than Sqrtofneg1. Sqrtofneg1 has just as many bases as Aicy has. He's got a better army. He's got pretty good upgrades, and now really the game is just looking excellent for Sqrtofneg1. This is the first time in the game where we can confidently say this is a winning position, right? This is unless Sqrtofneg1 makes a major mistake here, with this much of a worker lead, with this much of an army lead, this is a very, very strong position for him. he is going to go up on the high ground here. He's still cautious about it. He realizes that Aicy has some good control with catapults of his own, preemptively shelling the high ground here with the catapults to make sure that a position can be taken by Sqrtofneg1. And I like this from Aicy, just using this airship to threaten, to maybe suggest to him that he might have some units to drop in there. But yeah, Sqrtofneg1 still being annoying with these catapults. Less than half the workers now for Aicy, right? He's got 17 to the 36 of his opponent. So as the game goes on, there'll be more and more mech units just moved across the map. Even if Sqrtofneg1's a little sloppy with these, I have to say he can pretty much just attack move Gatling guns and kill Aicy at this point. It's not quite as simple as that, but Sqrtofneg1, not content to rest on his laurels, is going to continue to do the drops, is going to make sure that he solidifies that lead. Little bit sloppy there to lose that airship. I don't think it really matters at this stage. This massive army is going to posture on this base of Aicy and start shelling it down. This is going to be the 5th base going down for Aicy. There's almost no way for Aicy to fight this. He is desperate. He is going to go for it and try to engage this, but he knows that this is a pretty much an attack of desperation. The archers and the soldiers walk right onto the caltrops, get shelled down by these catapults, and he does manage to close the distance here. I think these gats need to come back. This is looking a little bit sloppy there from Sqrtofneg1. This is the danger of those Rax units. If they do close the distance, they can be quite dangerous, but with a couple little pops there of the catapults, the archers are going to go down. Now it's just a single soldier against all these catapults. 8 workers now for Aicy. If the situation was desperate before, this is basically the Desperate Housewives season finale. This is not the position that you want to find yourself in. Again, Aicy still being a trooper, staying in it, thinking maybe there's a way forward, maybe there's something he can do. Collect all your army together, get us around, do something, use the airship, use some micro, maybe if you kill 10 units for every one of yours, and Sqrtofneg1 maybe falls asleep at the keyboard, it's possible for him to end the game. But actually, Aicy gonna finally just tap out, realizing no, this is not gonna happen. So good game is called from Aicy. Really like that game. Aicy actually posted this game, so not afraid to show games where he's lost. Obviously no shame losing to Sqrtofneg1, extremely strong player. Really well played from both players. Enjoyed that game. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.